What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Bev Boys, your one-stop shop for all your energy drink reviews, news, and of course, performance talks. I'm Brian,
I'm Christian.
and we, of course, are the Bev Boys. Christian?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Got another duet here today. Me and Brian going to be chopping it up. We got some good topics on the docket for today. Some news as far as like the supplement and energy drink industry. Like we're going to talk about I guess you can call it a current event within the sports world, and then some training stuff as well. So
Should
let's
we
let's
start
start
off?
it. Let's start off hot. Let's start off hot.
Okay. I'm gonna start with my drink real quick here because I got something that might make people angry or it's gonna make a very, very specific population. I'm gonna paint the picture for you here. This population drinks Celsius probably a lot. Definitely wears cowboy hats and white cowboy boots. Um, and then pretends to get coffee, but doesn't really get coffee. It's a lot of milk, sugar, and
It's a
syrups.
milkshake.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but Starbucks released an energy drink.
Oh, dude, I did hear about that actually.
um, yeah, I got one of them. I had one yesterday. I got a watermelon one yesterday. Did not wow me, but just to kind of go on to this can, looks like a Starbucks like refresher type of drink. I think it's kind of ugly. I get the Starbucks logo, but it just looks really, really not like an energy drink. It looks like I would find it in Whole Foods instead. Um, 5 calories, zero carbs, zero fat, zero protein. Where do the 5 calories come from? Basically, there's probably a little bit of each one of those that are in this, and they just can't show it as a full gram due to FDA regulations and trying to get away with it. 160 milligrams of plant based caffeine, hydration, which I don't know where the hydration comes from, if it's simply just the sodium in there at 35 milligrams. But the fact that you're drinking anything is hydration. So, um, hydrate and energize with a feel good boost, juicy flavors of blueberry and the taste of lemonade. It's refreshing everyday energy. Again, really it doesn't say a whole lot. It's 12 ounces. It was about $3, $2.99 a can. Blueberry lemonade. I don't know. I'm prepared to be disappointed. I'm going into it very low expectations. The only thing that's like says up at like the rim of the can is zero sugar, zero sugar, zero sugar, zero sugar, zero sugar, um, which is kind of wild for Starbucks to not do a full sugar thing. But
How much caffeine is in there? Did I miss that?
160 milligrams.
Okay, 160. Okay.
Very abysmal pop on the top. No vapor. Extremely light carbonation and very light flavoring. It's like the LaCroix of energy drinks. It's not terrible.
Oh,
It's not terrible. There's definitely more blueberry than there is lemonade, which I can like, but would I buy it again? Immediately off the bat, if there is nothing else in a gas station and this is all they have, like if full sugar monster isn't in the refrigerator, I think I picked this up.
okay. So it's a last resort.
It is a last resort so
It is
far.
an absolute last resort.
I'm gonna drink it today, but just know that a good review for this probably isn't out there.
Okay. Well, now we know. Now I can save myself time and money by not getting one of those.
Mm-hmm.
It's all right. I'll pull us out with a tried and true, just another white monster.
White
Oh,
White Monster Sunday, so we can prep for White Monster Monday. White Monster Monday starts your week, so that way you can get into the big day of White Monster Tuesday, and of course White Monster Wednesday. Thursday's a bit of a hump
obviously
day, so just to get through that, there's not
a
really a
white
theme,
monster.
but you got to get a White Monster to get you through Thursday, so that way you can start your weekend off with a bang. And by bang, I mean we're not going to get a Bang energy drink. We're going to get a White Monster on Friday.
Right. And obviously, you want to have fun on Saturday, so you're going to need to be energized with a white monster, and then we're back to Sunday.
White Monster Sunday.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's start this off with a bang on some news in the sporting industry and the field of track and field. Grand Slam track. Grand Slam track came through, and they invited. It's a great league that offers a lot of money in a sport that does not offer a lot of money. Winners of the events get $100,000. Right, so this is really good for the sport. I love what's going on with it. It's mainly track events, not necessarily going into field as of yet. Um, but big news coming from the Miami meet. Not only did we see a 12:17 100-meter hurdle, which is an American record and a number 2 ever in all time in the world from Masai Russell, but one of the stars got into trouble at the hotel. That star is none other than Fred Curley. He came through, and obviously everything's pending an investigation, but from everything that's going on in Twitter, he kind of crashed out and he punched his ex-girlfriend, Alicia Johnson, who is also a track and field athlete, in the face and got into a fight with, I believe, like her new boyfriend. I couldn't tell you what happened. I don't know if it was provoked or unprovoked. Just wild that, like, you're an unsponsored dude, you're in a race that you can win a fat amount of money, and you just snap, lose it, and now he got released from jail, I think yesterday morning or this morning. So kind of a wild story from like start to finish. The craziest part though, the funniest part is literally like I believe like a couple hours before that, homie took a photo and put it on his Instagram story of him in like black Air Forces with like a like the demon mode face.
It's too fitting.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know that until you brought it up right before the show. I'm looking at an article at it right now. Um,
I know
yeah, it's
Grand Slam
wild.
released a statement on like, hey, like he's just not racing. Like if you want more information, like we're not going to release it. Like check out like Broward County like Sheriff's Department. Um, but Twitter X, sorry, ran wild with it. Like it was it was
Like,
the
oh,
funniest
are those hands
interaction,
as fast as the feet or something like that?
dude. It was just the craziest stuff. And Fred's been pretty open. He went on Ryan Clark's podcast and like talked about like his other two brothers were like in jail or like in the streets, that kind of thing. And like the comments did not let Fred live at all. Like there was one comment of basically like, man, he's trying so hard to play catch up to his brothers. Like it's
That's rough.
guys down bad. And I can't tell you, I don't know, I wasn't there, but like situation wise, like could be the dumbest move you could have done for your career that was already like not in a great spot after not having a sponsorship after last year. Calling out Noah Lyles consistently that he's not as good as you. Meanwhile, you open up your season with a 10-3, and Noah's probably going to open around like either 10-0 or 9-9 in the 100-meter. Like, you're calling a lot of like it's a lot of vocal and off the track stuff, but nothing on the track is supporting that to like even I don't want to say like warrant, but like even just negate some of like the off the field like problems that you're causing. So could this be the death of Fred Curley in a sense of career wise? I think very well could be.
Yeah, we'll see. What is he? 29? This article said
29,
29.
yeah.
Okay.
So not great for the boy.
Yeah.
What do you think, man? Like, where's your opinion on this?
I mean, obviously, it's not good to catch a battery charge, but um, yeah, I don't know. I was because I mean, he was running really well, and there was like talks about oh maybe he was going to challenge for the gold because it was like a crazy story. He switched from the 400 and then ended up his 100 ended up being kind of his best race.
Yeah,
And it was a lot different than I mean obviously he's called out Noah Lyles a good amount, but like very different like I would say like personality types. Like
hmm
Lyles, like I'd say he's like a fan favorite. Like isn't afraid to like talk a little shit, but like I feel like he's very well liked for the most part. And then Curly's just kind of like doesn't say like a whole lot. I don't know. It was
he's
kind of
like
like a
the villain. He's the heel.
exactly. I was just gonna say it's like a villain and hero rivalry within like the U.S. 100 meter, and then but But yeah, we'll see. I mean,
Meanwhile, you have just Christian Coleman silently working in the background, like pretty quiet on social media. Like that's a race I'm excited to see. Like somebody open is Christian Coleman. He's done a lot of work probably in the last couple of months in like this off season to this year. Like Ronnie Baker's ran some indoor races. Coleman hasn't like really touched a big race. I think he's just literally kind of been, quote unquote, like in the lab, like working and chipping away at some stuff. I think that'll help eventually make, some of his starts electric, his top speed's insane, but it was always like the speed endurance or the ability to not decelerate as fast. I would be excited to see like the showdown and renewed of like that good rivalry between like Lyles and Coleman now that Curly's almost like worked himself out of the picture by his own accord.
yeah, no, I'm excited for Coleman too. I mean, I feel like he had so much momentum back at the what was it, the Worlds in 2019,
29 in Doha
when he
when he
won
just
when he won the
lit the world
60
on
and set
fire.
the yeah, and so obviously we're a few years away from the next Olympics, but I
Could
think
be
that'll
good.
be interesting. It's kind of, I mean, I feel like they're both kind of coming into their like prime years. I know it's a little bit different with certain. I
Yeah.
feel like it's a little bit like 29. You'd think, oh, that's kind of old, but it's not necessarily. I mean, depends on the guy. I mean, who is the guy from Jamaica? Not Bolt. Asafa Powell is still running crazy times at like 36. So,
Yeah. Same with like Tyson
um,
Gay. Like he was able to like be at like 10 flat at like 37 years old.
right.
And
So,
there was another USA sprinter. I'm gonna look like an idiot with my pants down here. Justin Gatlin. Like
yeah,
Justin Gatlin was like 39, killing it.
yeah. So it'll be interesting
Um,
for sure.
I did get the glimpse. So yesterday we had a meet, and they brought out a lot of like professional runners. I did see a sub 20 200 meter in person yesterday.
Wow. How was
From
that?
it was pretty exciting. Unfortunately, the meet had like some delays and stuff like that due to like weather. So a lot of people left. So it kind of sucks because it was going to be a really cool event. But the duel essentially was like Joseph Amoa, Micaiah Harris, Marcellus Moore ended up, I believe, pulling out of the race. Or no, he pulled out of the 100 meter the next day. Marcellus Moore ran. But the winner with a time of 19.92 at the Aggie Classic was none other than Matthew Bowling,
Really?
ripping a 1992 on the track.
Well, that's pretty sick.
It was cool to see. I was like warming up the 400 hurdlers, and I just like turn around. I was like literally right on the bend of the curve, so I see him like just slingshot off. I was like, this is kind of cool.
That is sick, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, should we hop into this ghost topic? A little bit of
Yeah,
supplement news before we get into some more of the tactical stuff.
I think so. I think so. So, for anyone that doesn't know, and you're a big fan of any of the Ghost collabs, right? And when I say collabs, like Sour Patch Kids, Swedish Fish, the Oreo for the protein, Chips Ahoy, Nutter Butter. Unfortunately, we've talked about it on the podcast before. Like Ghost had been acquired by Keurig Dr Pepper. Unfortunately, there was some language that they tried to work around and renew a deal with Mondelez, who is like the owner of those brands. But Mondelez essentially said, "Hey, if you get bought out, our deal is null and void." So there will no longer like everything that's on the shelf or out past production and just like in stock everywhere. That's the last we are going to see of the Ghost Sour Patch Kids, the Swedish Fish, as well as the Chips Ahoy, Oreo, and Nutter Butter flavorings. I don't believe it affects like the Bubblicious flavors, which those are like more seasonal and could come back. Um, and I don't know if like Warheads is owned by Mondelez.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't know. I watched. I mean, I think it said the Bubblicious is owned. They were owned by Mondelez, but now it's owned by like a different holding company.
mhm.
And that goes for like the pre workouts and the gamer formulas too. So
Yeah, so all of those flavorings will be disappearing, which
yeah,
kind of sucks. It
yeah,
kind of sucks because that was like a big thing for Ghost was like these like super big pairings, like meeting of the giants. But brands have their own deals and stuff like that. What I would assume is going to happen though is those will probably be replaced by flavorings and partnerships owned by Keurig Dr Pepper, which would be really sick. Maybe this opens the door for the Dr Pepper Ghost energy drink, which fucking please. That's all I ask, is please. Um, and then any of the other brands in there. I would assume too at some point they'll probably do, it might not be, and then it's probably a cookies and cream flavor where
yeah.
they do additives with the same formula in a sense of like we're going to make cookies and cream and we'll use like an off-brand kind of Oreo. It just won't be Oreo branded, or they'll do like chocolate chip cookie where it's just not Chips Ahoy with that like super good like buttery richness of a Chips Ahoy. Um, we just won't see the branding, but I would assume that Ghost does come through and keeps those types of flavorings out there. It's going to be a little bit of a wild west while we wait in time. And the other question is, do some of these items become collectors because you can't get them anymore?
I know. Once I saw that, I looked on like Amazon. I'm like, I wonder if they're jacking up the prices on this stuff. I didn't look. I just looked because I was obviously like the Swedish fish is one of my top ghost flavors,
Yeah,
honestly. Um, and I also really like that the Oreo protein. That was really good in my opinion.
I love
So
the
I was
Chips
like,
Ahoy.
yeah. So I was like, damn, I'm gonna kind of be bummed. Obviously, they still have like the Cinnabon flavor, but I'm sure they do in some circles. I'm looking up what like brands are owned by Dr Pepper to see like future potential collabs.
Yeah,
Um, ooh, A&W, Canada Dry. Those would be good.
a root beer and a ginger ale flavor, Sun Drop as an energy
Squirt,
drink. That could
Squirt.
be very, very good. Um, Obviously
Ooh,
like 7 Up
Snapple.
Schweppes. This is an interesting one because Hawaiian Punch has a brand deal with C4. Does Hawaiian Punch get transferred over as that flavoring into Ghost? Which I've reviewed the Hawaiian Punch flavor on here. I think it's very, very good. With Ghost at the helm, like seeing a little bit more nootropics, which would just be a little bit less like, I don't want to say performance based, but pre workout kind of style. It'd be more so into like an energy drink itself. Very interesting in that fact, but could be pretty good. I don't. The hard part is though is like when we talk about this, like I don't see a ton of like, obviously Keurig Dr Pepper like owns a lot of like drinks in the sense. I don't see a ton of like, I guess like snacks in that sense, like candies, cookies, that what you would find in the aisle that you're not supposed to go into when you're a kid, but you always wander down. I don't know where we go with some of this stuff. Now, they're like the ghost flavorings are also very good. It's like you have pink lemonade, you have like the creamsicle, the citrus is unreal, the strabango, and I know that they had the sour strips collab, which they're gonna bring back, I believe, like as a full time flavor, and then possibly add new sour strips flavorings. So like it opens the door for like that and like possibly some branding with Hershey's. Um, Now that Sour Strips is purchased by Hershey's and they want to do that work with Ghost, you could see some help from like the Hershey's brand. So what other famous candy that everybody loves? It's in that chocolate category. What would go great in a protein shake?
Dude, give me that Hershey's cookies and cream.
How about a Reese's peanut butter cup
That
protein?
too, for sure. That Reese's.
Hershey's cookies and cream could be the replacement from like the Oreo side. You could see a Reese's peanut butter cup flavored protein. Like they have avenues to, I don't want to say salvage this, but essentially just pivot. They could pivot from here and go essentially balls deep into some stuff and do a really good job at it. Um, but I think the first thing that they do, in my opinion, that the best decision for like the energy drink space right away would be bring out that Dr. Pepper flavor. I don't think you bring that out, everyone's like, yes, our patch was great, but man, dude, little DP energy drink, 200 milligrams of caffeine, little neurofactor in there. I'm going crazy. I will be vibrating because I simply would not be able to stop shaking from how many I drink.
Yeah, the Dr. Pepper one is a must. A&W root beer, that would be killer too.
That little bit of vanilla in there.
Yeah.
And we've famously we have been unapologetic about how much we love like the root beer flavors in energy drinks.
Yes.
Like when we first got our hands on the bum root beer, like you
So
would have
good.
thought we had found the holy grail.
Yeah. That I wouldn't be mad at like a cream soda too. I know people kind of don't like the cream soda as much, but like
I'm killing it.
give me that.
Like there's a lot of room to have a good amount of fun with some of this stuff. And who knows, maybe they come out with like more of like now that you have Keurig, do they come out with like a coffee flavored protein? You have a Cinnabon, do you come out with like a coffee, like a Pete's coffee, um, in that sense? Because I think Keurig Dr. Pepper also has like a stake in like Pete's coffee. Like there's some really, really cool avenues. And I think like freeing up I don't want to say like the shelf space, but like when you have a ton of different like flavors, it doesn't necessarily open the door for you to experiment with new ones. And I think like this is just one of those natural progressions that you see within a brand that allows you to kind of open the door for some of those new flavorings. A&W root beer, I think they have IBC root beer too, so like you could go either one. A&W being like the big one, maybe like an orange crush flavor. Squirt would be really good too. Squirt or like Sundrop, that would be that would be absolutely killer. So, you know, on the energy Keurig Dr. Pepper also, here we go. This is what we were looking for before we kind of swap topics here. Keurig Dr. Pepper does have that Cinnabon, right? They also have a very, very famous different I guess like sweet treat in the morning kind of partnership. Was it crispy? Have you ever been to Krispy Kreme? Was it crispy? A Krispy Kreme glazed donut flavored protein would be insane. I think that would be a bestseller right off the bat. People would be in love with it. Ghost, if you want to hire me, I'm probably not worth much, but I'm a pretty good idea guy.
Yeah, and definitely he definitely likes consuming the products.
Yeah, it's not like I wouldn't use this. Shit, they own Clamato. Like, I guess if you want to do like a tomato flavored one, I would drink that. 200 milligrams of caffeine in a Clamato.
I don't know about that one, Brian. I'm out on that one. I'm out on that one. Oh,
Yeah. Should we get into some of these performance talks now that we've kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
ripped
Let's
through some of this?
yeah, let's do it.
Um, there's um one of yours that you had that really got me thinking was like thoughts on deloads. Like, take me where you were thinking, like when you tossed that over to me.
Yeah. So I think, and I made a post on this. It was a while back, just Instagram, like on some thoughts on deloads. I think I actually made a little YouTube video where I just kind of brain vomit into the camera for 10 or so minutes. But basically, deloads, I think it's something that we're taught, and especially in the training space, not as much maybe in strength and conditioning, but like general fitness, like train, you build up for, 3, 4 weeks, and then you have a 1 week deload, something like that. And it's like, oh, that's just what happens. Like you build up enough, you accumulate enough like chronic fatigue that you need to take a step back, reduce the training volume, intensity, etc., so that you can go back and, hit it hard again. And I think like pushing back on that, is there a better way? Because I guess the question I'm asking is, are they warranted and are they a net positive in the end? Because when you look at like a deload, people usually think, oh, it's like easy training, but ideally it's to put you in a better spot than you would have been if you would have continued to train. It's not just because, oh, I want an easy week of training. But my initial thoughts are like, one, you have to train hard and accumulate fatigue to begin with to warrant a deload. And not everybody does that. Another thing is a lot of times life and just schedules will schedule that shit for you, like deloads. Like I think of like in the college setting, 100%, like your like spring breaks, your winter breaks, your finals weeks, your fall breaks. Like there's all these like little mini breaks that I think that kind of schedules in a lot of like quote unquote deload stuff. Brian, I know it's a little bit different for you because track is a sport where you definitely like there's a couple times where you need to like peak for like one or two competitions. But for like team sport, field sport, stuff like that, I think a lot of that stuff just like works its way in. Um, and just thinking about how can you maximize your program by like being able to train hard as often as possible without overtraining essentially. And another, I think what sparked this thought back into my mind was, I don't know if you're familiar with, he's like the Muscle Doc on Instagram. I think he's a chiropractor, but he's big in like the S&C space, fitness, just like general exercise and fitness. But I was watching a video, with him, and he basically said like you shouldn't have to deload. Don't think about like deloading, just manipulate the exercises and that will determine the intensity. Like, so for example, if you're going to do a front squat and that's going to be your main squat movement, instead of just doing a lighter front squat, you can maintain intensity by just doing a goblet squat because the load is obviously going to be limited by how much like of a dumbbell you can hold or how big the dumbbells go at your gym. Still have a good amount of intensity, you can still push, but because of that, the constraints of that movement, the overall and like the relative intensity is still high, but the overall intensity is going to be much lower. And you just kind of swap and manipulate exercise selection to essentially like deload, and then you can go back to those more intense movements. Because like some movements, they just aren't as easy to load. Like you get to a certain point, like you can't load them anymore. They're not as advantageous, stuff like that. So do we need them? Are there ways we can get around them to make them look a little bit different? And the main thing to me is like how can we train harder more often to get to our goals quicker without burning the cake, so to say.
That's a really, really good point. There's a couple avenues we can probably go through with this. Number one, obviously, like a drop in your total tonnage is going to quantify technically as a deload. So you can keep intensity high in the same modalities and just drop volume, or you can drop your intensity and maintain volume. So how much you're lifting through all that. And then the other piece was, you could switch the modality itself, and therefore you'll keep relative intensity to the individual with, absolute load being limited, like you said, by dropping from like a front squat to a goblet squat. You're not going to load up a 300-pound goblet squat. You can't. I think there's probably one gym in the world with a 300-pound dumbbell, and try and hold that son of a bitch. The other thing that I want to think about is like the first part that you said is, does everybody need one? Right. I think like you can go into like different aspects of what sport are you doing? Is it a field sport or like even just general population? Life kind of creates those deloads for you. So if you just let life happen, you will deload. I don't think the average person going to the gym and working out, 3 to 5 times a week truly needs a deload unless they've gone through like very intense training and they're on a specific program that it's setting up the next phase and using like a phase potentiation. I really just don't think so. Beagle Bandit's scratching his leg behind me. But like some people will inherently have travel or they'll have to work. Yeah, right, buddy. um, so like the travel, the life events, work. Maybe you're too tired this week, and you skip the gym, 2 times out of the five. There's your deload. It just naturally happens. And then like in collegiate sports, right? Like you said, like you have fall break, you have Thanksgiving break, you have winter/Christmas, you have spring break if the school has like an Easter kind of break, whatever it might be. Those typically happen and create spaces in training. Um, I think you have to take the time that you have and maximize it versus like every 2 weeks you need a deload. The other aspect too is if you run, say, waves programming or you're in 3 or 4 week kind of blocks, that first week, if you're like swapping in new modalities, it's going to be a little bit less intense and kind of building in a deload because they're having to learn new stuff. So they're not going to be able to go full board until they figure out that movement. So even if like your last 2 sets are very intense, your first couple of buildups, or if you're doing back offs, whatever it is, that stuff like isn't as intense because there's still like that coordination aspect that like the like motor unit learning around it that doesn't allow you to just get in, go, and start blasting intensity. So that stuff, like just being more creative in the program aspect instead of just saying, well, I'm going to go nonlinear, we're going to have, you know a base load, peak deload, so on and so forth. Like when you're in there, we only have, say, I don't, roughly, if your team trains 2 to 3 times a week and you're in school for, you know, let's just say 36 weeks, you're looking at 120 training sessions. Are you about to take a quarter of those to a third of those and negate everything, and basically just back that down to, well, now you get, out of, instead of say like 120, we go to 90 that we'll actually be able to have like full training because every 3 weeks we're going to deload. So I think you have to let your academic calendar in like a field sport like dictate a lot of what you're doing and use that time to get there and make sure that that's what's going to be your deload weeks. And honestly, like a lot of these athletes, we've talked about this before, like how many of them are truly, truly advanced. You have to accumulate volume and intensity over that period of time. I think they'll be okay if they do like a 6 week block here and there versus a 4 week and then a deload, like because you want it to line up with your academic calendar. And I think you'll see it a lot in like pro sports too, just because like in a pro sport, like you're going to have, spaces in your calendar year that these guys, like you're not even supposed to talk to them, let alone like train them. It's the same thing.
Yeah, and like didn't even mention like if a sport coach just like cancels a lift on you, like
There's a deload right
what?
there.
Yeah, I was gonna say like don't deload when you have the training sessions, and then wait until that gets taken away from you, and then you're like, ah, shit, shouldn't have done that. Um, so yeah, I think there's, and I'm kind of on the side of the fence where it's like if you're gonna do a deload, maintain intensity and reduce volume, as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to like maintaining volume and reducing intensity personally. Um, but you can go either way. We do currently, we like have run like some deloads here, and I will say like you do kind of see some benefits from them. Like we see a lot of guys this week. We kind of did a little mini deload, like maintain intensity, just take, and it's like not even anything crazy. Like some people will say reduce volume by 50%, reduce intensity by like 50%, and I'm like, okay, that's like a little too much. You might as well just like take the week off,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But like just taking like 1 or 2 sets off the main movement, and then maybe that might be it. Like that literally might be it. Or I like the idea that you brought up. Like you don't need to deload if you're going to start a new program, because you're probably not going to prescribe super high loads if you're going to build a progression in. That first week of the new cycle is going to be a deload for you. Um, but you do see like it could be a coincidence, it could be not. We had a lot of guys this week that like PR'd on their fastball velocity in our sim games, and that's obviously also like we've been training since January. Maybe that's just like accumulation of that, and then they've obviously been working on the skill a whole lot. But we saw some pretty good like fastball PRs, and I think it's also like I think it's almost more psychological sometimes than physical. Like you see it like when you go if you go on vacation and like don't hit the gym for 4 or 5 days, you come back, you're energized, you're looking to get back into it, you're looking forward to it. And I think
Mhm.
a lot of times you end up like, especially with like the people that aren't athletes, like I said, all that stuff just auto regulates. Like I know if I go on like a super long flight, don't get a lot of sleep, um, I might not go into the gym, but I'm gonna do something like I know I want to move. Like I might get on
Mhm.
the bike, get a sweat going, do like a light full body workout, and then kind of work back into a split, and that's good enough for me. Same thing like when I get sick, um, I'll still try to do something, and then it's kind of like, okay, that was a nice little reset, now we can kind of get back into it. So
That's the other thing too. Like we didn't even talk about like health, just general health, like getting sick or feeling fatigued. Like those things will happen, and they create the opportunity for a deload to just occur. Versus, especially for like the average person, just going to the gym and trying to stay fit. Like
right,
getting sick or having a wedding that you have to go attend to. There's your deload. That just happens.
right, and like to me it like feels better like psychologically knowing that okay, I've trained for the last 6 weeks like pretty intensely. Okay, I just feel like shit. I don't want to do anything for the next like 2 days, or I just want to go off the program, fuck off for a few days. I feel better doing that, knowing that I've actually like trained hard versus like, shit, I just did a program deload 2 weeks ago and now I'm just kind of being a pussy. So it's
Yeah.
like,
Now I have. This is 2 weeks out of the four that I should be training that I'm not training, and it's like
it's
don't
just a
don't
mind
sweat it.
fuck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't sweat it. Let those occurrences just happen.
Yeah. And obviously like it's maybe you could touch on the topic of like the more of the necessity of deloading for like a stopwatch sport like track, or I'm sure it's similar
Mhm.
with like swimming. Um,
Yeah, so like for us, it's like you have obviously like for track and field, like you have indoor and outdoor. So like I pretty much plan like a deload, and what it would look like to the average person is like a mini peak for indoor, but we're really training through indoor for the most part. So I just plan a deload, and that's like essentially like that little like break right before there, which they end up going right onto like a spring break kind of a deal immediately after. So I just carry that through, and it's like there's our deload. It's built into the academic calendar, and we'll probably see for most part our best indoor performance at that meet because that's the way it's built. Um, and then outdoor, like there's probably like one little deload where it's like I probably just de-escalate the volume a little bit, taking like 2 to 3 sets off of like those main movements that can be intrusive to like the amount of freshness that you have, but that also pairs with what we're doing in the actual practice. So like that's when I'm like, we need to. This would be like a meet that we might want to like load up our events, see if we can get some good marks from. But on the flip side too, like there's meets where like, hey, we don't want to go to this because we're going to go through one of our most intense training blocks, right? And this is going to be like that last kind of week on there, accumulating the volume. We're 600 meters of volume of like speed endurance. We're hitting 3 to 400 of either max V or acceleration within the week, as well as hammering it in the weight room. Like that's a neat. So like you have to start to think about it. Like you'd have a psychological deload in the aspect of like you're not going to compete, right? So you just like have that trade off. That's like the big thing when it comes to like track and field or like a stopwatch sport such as like swim and dive or I guess swimming, um, where you have to like just consider all the four coactives in there. And it's like you can deload one without deloading the others. Where it's like I just need you to focus on training through this piece, maybe not competing because that'd be like a psychological overload, and you're probably not going into it fresh. So those things all kind of go together, and you have to like where I'm at is a very unique situation. Um, Doing both as the coach in the weight room, as the sports performance coach, and as the actual like event coach, or position coach, however you want to call it. But when you do that, you're able to kind of manipulate the constraints on it and say like, okay, well, this week is a physiological deload, this week is a mental deload, And over that 2 week period, we only get one competition, but we'll also have like 1 week where it's just dedicated straight to training and we can get the most out of that and then get a good performance on there. And then they can also start to get that like mental preparation of like, okay, this meet's gonna matter, so I should like really take it seriously and know that like if I'm set up for a good performance, it's gonna happen here. So you almost like kind of put them in like a little bit of a mini pressure situation to go compete. So that way when they go see it at like the big meet that matters, our conference, with regionals or whatever it is, they have that familiar with them and they're like, we can do this. We're gonna be all good.
Yeah. So definitely sport dependent, context dependent, obviously. But it's good that you're in that situation where you're in control of both because it just makes it so much more smooth, I'm sure, rather than having to coordinate. Um,
It's nice when the arguments that I'm having with the sport coach are just in the mirror.
yeah,
um,
just in your own head.
yeah. There's definitely like more pressure to it, but it's like, hey, this isn't working. It's really easy to tell yourself it isn't working than to tell somebody else, and like maybe an ego gets in the way. Like you can modify everything together, um, which I think like that kind of bodes well to like, hey, a sports performance coach should be considered like in reality like a coach on staff and have a piece of the conversation. Um, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that they are a position coach or whatever, but just being taken seriously to where it's like, hey, we're all in on the overall mission. Similar to the way you guys operate. From what you've told me, is like we're all going for the same thing. We all want to win. We're all going to give our opinions and what we want to help get there. So like that conversation needs to happen for a healthy organization to strive.
Yeah, it's a good point. I feel like that kind of leads us well into the topic of like different training volumes, like minimum effective volume, maintenance volume, maximal recoverable volume, maximal adaptive volume. Like we were just brainstorming ideas. I think that relates to deloads quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we at on? Because I first learned of this stuff from Renaissance Periodization. They put out a lot of great stuff. That was kind of one of the. I remember it was that bodybuilding.com, Tiger Fitness for me, Juggernaut
Elite
Training,
FTS.
Elite FTS, stuff like that. That was where I got a lot of my information. I remember a lot of like I still have like notes on my computer from like I type notes on like some of Mike Israel's like lectures on like the volume landmarks and stuff like that. So I was I definitely because I mean people like systems and the more exact we can it can kind of be a pitfall as well as a benefit because we want to think that okay X amount of sets per week for this muscle group is the correct amount of volume to start, or this is the maximal amount of volume to start. And I think they're good because they were probably going to get us in the ballpark. But if you kind of blindly follow them, you can run into trouble. And I think the other thing I've been thinking about is like how does that extrapolate to sports performance? Because a lot of the stuff that RP puts out is great, but I'd say they're more biased towards the hypertrophy crowd, the bodybuilding crowd, and just like the general fitness person, which most people just want to get jacked, they want to get stronger, not necessarily as much about like sport performance. Definitely principles that carry over, but how do those kind of extrapolate to like a team setting? Do they extrapolate to a team setting?
This is where it gets a little bit tricky. I think like when it comes to like accessory movements, it's not necessarily it doesn't matter as much. And I say it doesn't matter as much because like as long as like in those like single joint exercises where we can induce probably hypertrophy to build a robust system to negate at least the risk of injury a little bit more, we'll be fine. Like you can feel a little bit sore in your tricep and be okay. And for the most part, like and on the men's side, like a lot of the dudes love that. Like, so if they want to hit some extra arms or something after a session, sure, man, like go for it. It's not globally inducing stress. You feel good, you feel more confident. And as long as we're not like, I got to come back and attack that muscle group the next day, like we'll be all right. Um, but like, I think your MEV, your MAV, your MRV, like that stuff plays a bit of a role when it comes to like your compound movements. Like, what's your maximal recoverable volume? What's our minimal effective dose? What is, we've heard that 1,000 times. Like, is the minimal effective dose, like, I don't want to say optimal. I hate the word optimal now because it's so freaking overused and kind of bastardized. Like, but is it the maximal adaptive volume or is it the minimal adaptive volume? Like, can we induce an adaptation without stressing them too much, but definitely more than just enough to skate by? And I think I'm a big minimal effective dose guy on the aspect of, like, right now we just need to make sure we poke at what we need to poke at to make sure that it's still there. But I think a lot of people use it as a cop out to have a very short session and just say, like, I'm going to play it really safe and never, like, like we talked about before, I'm never going to crack a couple of eggs to make the omelet. And we leave a lot of meat on the bone and we don't train as hard as we do. And then we're pretty disappointed when the results aren't there.
They
Um,
forget the effective part. They
yeah,
just do
the
the minimal
effective part.
dose.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, like a great piece of this is, like 1 by 20 from Yesis. Like 1 by 20 works because, like, yes, it's one set, it's 20 reps though, but like it only works if
If
there
it's a
is like
hard fucking
progress.
set.
If it's a hard set, yeah. So like your last 3 reps should feel like you got some fog and you're in a dark spot. You know what I mean? Your first 5 are like working pure speed. Your second 5 are probably near that like kind of power range because fatigue set in with time under tension. Then we're into like that 70 to 80% in that next couple of 5. That last 5, hey, you're in a dark spot, man. Like you might even have like some lactic in there, depending on what movement it is. Um, but that's why it works because you're loading it and you're pushing the intensity. If I just said, hey, do one set of 20 and we're always going to be at, say, like 5 RIR, yeah, you probably feel really fresh and there's like a little bit of volume that's accumulated. But like after you go over that volume, like you now have a new threshold of what your baseline is. You have to keep pushing that, which is why like the system is set up that it's like if you hit that either 1 or 2 sessions in a row, they want you to add 5 or 10 pounds. That you want to get the adaptive volume. And I think that's where we go wrong a lot in the industry is everyone is very scared to go towards that. Like we're either like we're so on the far end of the spectrum. We're either the guys that like don't want to touch it and it's like if we just do a little bit we can get enough, or we go way overboard and then it's like max strength is like all we care about. But that adaptive volume lies somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. And it's like, hey, we can be a little bit this way 1 week, and the next week we want to go a little bit this way. As long as we can continue to progress and get that and be in that range, we'll probably be in a good spot. The second piece would probably be in like your field work, right? What is your tempo volume? What is your total volume? What's your high speed distance volume? What's your sprint distance? And what's your acceleration distance volume, right? Those aren't like exact numbers that it's like I have to hit this. It's hey, you should probably have like 3 levels to that where it's like this is what we have to get minimally. So like if something goes wrong, we need to make sure that this happens. This is probably our sweet spot. If I'm putting it in layman's terms, like this is our sweet spot of like we probably won't burn the steak, but like we can, if this is what we aim for, we then have that third level of like, this is the max we could do where we prevent like an obscene occurrence of like an injury that could happen. And but we leave room if we sit underneath that to where like maybe a sport coach just like, we're going to run a couple gassers or some perfect shuttles or whatever after practice. You've left that room just in case, but we know that we hit the adaptive stuff, right? So those volumes aren't concrete and they probably change for every situation. Like the sport of American football, for example, you know, it might be 180 meters or 180 yards or 200 yards for this team, and it might be 100 to 120 for this other team based off of the athletes that you're working with, the offensive and defensive schemes that you run, and how much they hit in a total game. So you have to use technology to guide those volumes versus saying, we're just going to chase the technology, which is a different argument. But like you have to kind of go through and play with those numbers yourself based off of a little bit of figuring it out. Um, so I like, but those are good numbers where it's like you set your 3 thresholds. What is an absolute necessity that has to occur? Where's our sweet spot? And what is the upper limit that we cannot go over? You get those 3, and you lie within that range, it's probably somewhere between, 80 to 100 yards of that total distance. As long as you fall in there, you're probably going to be okay. Now, the more diligent you can get and the better conversations you can get in with like coaches and say we're able to be towards that middle in the sweet spot, then we're good. You always leave room to cut something out if you have to, if you get cut short, and you always leave room for someone else to throw something extra. And you build an insurance policy either way.
Right. And just be adaptive, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the things, the book, the System by Johnny Parker, that goes into like really like specific detail about like, oh, like this is the like tonnage range for intermediate lifter, for an advanced lifter, and like specific tonnage on like certain movements. And like I kind of have mixed thoughts about that, because it's like, I don't like, does that stuff, a lot of that stuff was taken from the Russians, which obviously they had a lot of success with like Olympic weightlifting and like sports in general when they were the Soviet Union. But I like that it caveats to that in the book, that it always talks about the coach's eye and like using that too. So it's not just blindly following those landmarks. Yeah.
I think so. And like you made a good point too earlier, which was like, everybody loves systems because it simplifies everything. And that's okay. Totally okay. But your system needs to be complex, not complicated. You have a lot of moving parts, but they all need to work together versus just having a lot of moving parts. Shout out Cam Joss for throwing that little nugget in my thought brain, because it made me think about stuff. And it's like, these numbers can be fluid as times change, but like what most likely happens is if the MEV kind of goes up, then that MRV kind of goes up with it. And if the MRV comes down, the MEV probably comes down. Like it shifts together. It's not just this whole thing. It's
Yeah.
probably moving up and down on the same relative kind of percentage and going together. So just be fluid with the system, go with it, and know that it's going to take a lot of thought. That's for sure, and I think that scares a lot of people versus like a very concrete, like strict answer. Um, but as long as you have that thought and you're able to pivot and be adaptive, you'll be fine.
Yep. That's coaching.
Mm-hmm. That's coaching, baby. That's showbiz,
Exactly.
baby.
100%. Let's see. You
There's
you go ahead. You go
there.
ahead.
I was gonna say there's one on there that I really want to go after. I think you
Okay, I know what
you
it
you
is.
you put this on there.
Yep. Social media Erks. Is that word?
Yes,
we're
that's
we're
where I'm
we're,
going.
we're I was to say we're on the same wavelength. Yeah. So I just put that on there. There's really only just need an excuse to vent over to Brian about shit that I despise on Instagram, but there's one thing that I've been thinking of like lately, and like I think I felt I
Some
think
type
I
of way.
feel, yeah, and like I heard it on another podcast as someone said that they don't like it. I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one. So um, I obviously there's no barrier to the barrier to entry to being on social media is having a phone. So
Yeah.
essentially zero. What I don't like, if anyone happens to give a fuck, is when people make the content of, they do like the little floating head and they're like critiquing someone else's
Oh
video.
my god.
And like I think I'm probably more biased because like I know there's people that do that if you do it with your own content, okay, fine. But like when you're
Fine.
taking someone else's video and just like
Shitting on them.
critiquing, yeah, or like I don't even know if it's worse of just saying like, oh yeah, this is all good stuff, like this is obviously really good for this, and it's like, yeah, okay, that's the easiest thing you could do, and it's just, to me it's just lazy. It's lazy
It's
content creation. It's
That's all it is.
that's what I see it as. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry.
A lot of it is like when you do that, whether it be your video or not with your video. Honestly, with your video, it's like maybe you're providing additional context to like an original video.
Right, or if
But
you want
when
some
you
B-roll, like,
yeah, like maybe you have a thought and you have old training clips that you're throwing in behind that to where you're like, these will support my thought as B-roll, like you said, that's a good idea. when you just throw someone else's stuff up there and either you're kind of shitting on it or you're like, yeah, this is great. They're doing all good stuff. Like, number one, it's not your content. You're 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 just pushing something out to say you pushed out a post. Number two, is it's not your information. And number three, and this is what really irks me about social media, is like, what the fuck does your opinion matter?
Right. And
Like,
you're better
you know what I
off
mean?
making
Like,
a post of like what you think, like of your thoughts.
yeah,
That's going to say more than taking someone else's post and just saying this is bad. I would do it this way. Just make a post to saying this is what I do and this is what I do it.
this is
This
this
is
is
why
why
I
I
do
do
it.
it. Yeah,
Exactly. Like it just doesn't
versus
get you. I just don't get it, man.
I hate it too. It's like, or like, this one gets my stamp of approval. Like, what does your stamp mean? Like, no
I
offense,
mean,
man.
shit.
Like if I were to do that, right? Just for me, I like my opinion. I think there's a couple people that value my opinion, but like, I'm not a third party like certificate that's going to give you something that matters amongst the industry, right? It might mean something to you where I can say like, hey man, good stuff. That's probably where it's probably like warranted for me to share my opinion if I like comment like, this is good stuff. But I don't need to like make a video about it and be like, I like what they do. I like this. This is pretty good. I like that. My opinion, that if I share it to the grand scheme of the industry of the multiple thousands of people that are in it, doesn't really mean shit. They're like assholes. Everybody's got one. We don't always need to hear them though. The other aspect is like, what purpose do you serve if you just get on there and you start like chewing somebody out about how this isn't right, this isn't right, this isn't right? Why don't you call them up or shoot them a DM or something, ask them a question like, hey, why are you doing that? Like, come from a thought of understanding, and then you can open up a dialogue with them versus just putting them on blast. A lot of our stuff is like out of ignorance. Like, some people might see something as good because they just don't know, and you just like putting them on blast like might just like derail something.
Yeah, and like if I were to guess, I might say that most people don't like reach out before and be like, "Hey, why'd you do this?" They just do it.
Yeah,
Um,
there's lack of like impulse control. I think a lot of the times because there's a like on social media, there's the ability to get big really quick, whether it be just by having something go viral, whether it be for good or for bad.
right, and I feel like that kind of content is popular for whatever reason. Maybe because people just like
They like
drama.
conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why reality shows are big, but it creates problems, and I think it's. I'll be honest. Every time I see a floating head, I kind of scroll by it. I don't want to see it. I don't care for it. And again, that's my opinion. So you can quote me and put your floating head next to it and say, "Well, this is why he's wrong." But sure, go ahead. That's
Please,
fine. I
please.
Yeah, blow this page up. Let's do it. Get everybody watching so they can hear my opinion. But like it's just it. And the other thing that, I mean, I'm gonna go on a tangent here, but like, the birth of social media for like the coaching industry is everyone with a phone thinks they're an expert because they lifted a weight one time. We're the only industry in the entire, like, you don't see painters or musicians who maybe they can play a couple frets or they can paint a straight line, and they go in there and they start critiquing everybody else's art and saying, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. It's up for interpretation. And we've talked about coaching being an art that's guided by science. Shout out Brett Bartholomew. That's awesome. Love that shit, man. Put your floating head on this. But it's an art. Like, you're taking one glimpse of it without the total context of the program, forming an opinion, trying to say the whole thing is wrong or this person is wrong, versus being like, maybe that's just one thing. Um, Everyone thinks they're an expert, and they have probably, and a lot of the people that do it may not even be coaching someone actively or within an organization in a team sports setting or this or that, where it's like, I would do it differently. That's great, man. How are you going to do it differently? Like, oh, I would use this equipment and this thing in this setting. And it's like, well, they probably don't have that equipment. They probably don't have this. Maybe they only have 30 minutes, and it's this is this. Like, all this context is valued to form a better picture of this, and you're not taking the time to warrant that. You're like you said, it's lazy. It's a lot of the time super derogatory to the coach or the athlete or whoever. Like you can have your opinion, but like you don't need to share it. Again, whether you have 100 followers or 15 million, it doesn't matter. You're just doing something to try and get yourself out there as for content. It's like the Gary Vee thing where it's all about the content.
Yeah, and like this is coming from like we post with Bed Boys from, but it's all our shit, and like we don't like we use like an AI like clip editor, but like
Mm-hmm.
we recorded the whole podcast and then we put it in there because it's a lot quicker. Everyone's busy. We're both busy. It's easier for us to, pay a little bit of money and then have those clips. But it's like we did that. We like those words were said. Um, and obviously,
It
like we're
sometimes
just
seems like we
fucking
don't think, but like we get on here and we talk about stuff, whether we argue about it or agree on it. We're sitting here together, like legitimately thinking and trying to develop a total picture.
yeah. And then there's like, because I get it, like the being consistent, like trying to post something every day is
It's
definitely
tough.
like it's tough. But like I think I'd rather post nothing than do the talking head thing. And like there's some days where I just like get fucking tired of like posting our clips because I'm like, okay, like is this really like
Is this
I
good?
mean,
Is this worth it?
yeah, it's like I mean, we have I like to think we have some a couple nuggets from every episode, but like some
Hmm.
of the stuff is just us like bullshitting, which is cool, but
It's fun.
it's fun, yeah. But like if people want that, they're probably just gonna check out the full episode anyway. So
Yeah, so check
yeah,
out our full episode on YouTube and Spotify. It's available there. Follow us on Spotify. Definitely subscribe to us on YouTube. We're at 97 subscribers. We want to get to 100. But um,
that's right.
it's just I get it. It irks me too, and it's like there's a couple people that are out there that do it, and you know I'm not going to name drop or anything like that, but you see it and you're like, what value does this add? Like number one, and then the other aspect is like you're trying to sell something probably, so you're trying to call something out and be wrong and say I have the perfect solution that this is the end all be all. You should pay me for it. It's one big sponsored ad just by probably like being a dick or like you know what I mean? Like some of that stuff it's just put good stuff out there, people will like it and they'll go from there. Like and I get like there is like the aspect of like people like the drama, but is it worth it? Like do you look back on that and be like that was a banger?
Yeah, it's like
It's a
does
cop
it
out.
even
It's lazy.
yeah, like does it even have to be good? Just put your stuff out there. Put what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Post it
Like I
about
said, the
like
barrier
how
to
you
entry is
train.
low. Yeah, the barrier to entry is low. If you're writing a book, okay, maybe tighten up a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's Instagram, ladies and gentlemen. So
So I don't
that's
know.
all I got to
I
say about that.
that one that irks me too. I'm right there with you. There's so many other things about like social media and it's like we've heard it like oh this person got a Canva they think they're a coach now like there is that like everyone's a coach because they say they put coach in their bio. Who have you coached? What have you done? Like have you did you take someone that was okay and made them great or did you take a great person and make them good, right? But the
Mm,
bar but their level of athleticism was so high that even though you didn't help them at all they were still good, but now you're like well they're so good. You're not saying we made this progress, you're just saying they're really good. And I think there's a lot of confusion to the general public that they can't differentiate that because they go oh they trained with so and so and they're super good like it must be that. It's not. They were they were a freak walking into the facility, and they may have gotten a little bit better minutely to stay the same, or even gotten worse. But you're just having the brand association with it.
yeah, that's a good point. That makes me think about like you hear a lot of times when people like get into debates or arguments about the kind of thing that like is tough to respond to is like well like the results speak for themselves. Like you can always say that and like what do you, if someone does like if they work for a team that is winning, if they have like a storied like background of like okay, I got a championship in one of the big four at the pro level or I have a championship in one of the profit sports in college athletics and they say, well, the results speak for themselves. And it's like, well, shit, what can I say to that? Is that like is that kind of like a cop out of an argument? Because yes, the results do speak for themselves, but as the performance coach, we know, I think we know we play a role, but like
To an
we
extent.
know, but yeah, it's like if we were the most important, we would make the most money. Um,
Exactly. And it's like,
can you
well, we,
use that and like, or is that just kind of like a
I feel like it's a
okay,
bit
like
of a
I'm starting
cop
to get
out.
pissed this guy. Let me just like throw this out
Scoreboard.
there. Yeah, like what you gonna say to that shit?
I think it's a bit of a cop out. And it's like, hey, you're not like, a lot of people who be like, well, I'm at this university and, we won 12 games. And it's like, all right, but were you calling the plays? And were they kind of like the only argument you can kind of make in that is like, maybe we were really sloppy, but we were just so athletic that we just trampled people.
Right.
The other aspect is like,
If you add some context of like, oh, the results speak for themselves, these measurables that I've tracked before and after got a lot better. Okay,
yeah,
fair enough.
then great. But like, and I get like wins and losses, like you can't technically like really blame it on a strength coach. You can blame an injury rate for like non-contact injuries or like soft tissue injuries. Like that could be a big thing of like you failed to prepare them. The other aspect is like, you know, I'm not a big culture guy. I've started to become a little bit more of a culture guy after being on the actual sports side because some of that stuff matters of doing the little things right, but you're not going to also like, you're not going to build culture by making them do a hard workout and be like, you did mat drills, this is going to make you better. It's like, that's not like them
That's
like
not built
having
in a
like,
day. That's built every
yeah,
day.
that's built every day. The self discipline of like, I'm showing up 10 minutes before, ready to roll. I didn't want to wake up at 6 a.m. because I went to bed at 9 p.m. That stuff is like culture where it's like you're so bought into the overall mission, you're going to do the necessary stuff outside of the 2 hours you spend with the coach. That's culture. You know, like I'm going to make sure my grades are in order, that I'm sleeping. I go to like the extra prehab or rehab stuff that I have to do. I eat right. I'm not spending every weekend pounding Tito's and Jose Cuervo into my veins. That shit. That's culture. Um, I'm way off topic, but like I'm like I'm so into that. It's like that's where you can measure like what your culture is. Like you making a lunge 300 yards up and down field isn't probably going to build culture. That's just probably going to put junk volume on the athletes. Um, like I think wins and losses are important, but I think like where your part plays in those wins and losses is, did you roll into a game with like a healthy roster without soft tissue injuries? Did you like did you physically dominate the other team, whether it be like in a game of lacrosse? Like were you able to withstand like the capacity to collect like 3 to 5 miles like in that, or soccer? Were you able to speed around them because you've helped build like very, very fast athletes that can maintain that level for a longer period of time? In the game of football, can you line up in I formation and run dive 15 times and physically dominate the other side with 34 rushing attempts from a single running back where he's putting up big numbers and doing everything and the line guys are just creating gaps? Or did the OC come through and have these super creative plays that negated the lack of size or physicality or like speed that you have on the team, right? All of that is very contextual and it gets blurry. And I think that's where people get uncomfortable because it's blurry. It's not cut and dry. So they'll just say, well, we won 12. Was it because of you, or was it because you guys recruited really well and you all had 5 stars and genetic freaks who, for lack of a better term, look like the predator and could just kill everybody? That's my piece. I'll be done because otherwise I'm going to go further into a tangent.
Yeah, I don't know if I can add anything that's going to be more valuable than that. I don't know. But are we just, am I sitting here just being a salty fuck because I don't have the results? Like that's the other
Yeah,
side of it. You gotta check yourself too. So I don't know.
Am I unhappy with my situation and now I'm being a problem to somebody else?
Right, 100%. You're just deflecting blame outward.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Well, wins don't matter because we don't win.
Yeah, but I don't know. I do know that being aware of both sides is probably a step in the right direction, though. So
Yeah, that's like a
yeah,
big thing.
yeah,
What about an hour, 10, 70 minutes into this? Should we wrap up for the day?
yeah. We got a couple more topics, but those will go nicely for next week. Whatever we end up getting into, we just
Yeah.
kind of carry them over. So yeah,
Hmm.
what are you rocking with on that Starbucks?
I'm gonna go 4.7. Can is
Okay.
not cool. Can's not very cool looking. It's the same caffeine content in a Monster Energy zero sugar that you have in your hand. I think if I'm
Hmm.
gonna go for the same caffeine content, I'm going Monster Zero Sugar all day of the week, maybe. A little bit cheaper, tastes better, can looks sicker. You get more volume in the can. I not a huge fan of the flavor. Like the blueberry lemonade, it's neither here nor there. Like I think you could do it better, but like it's very lightly carbonated. It tastes like I'm drinking juice with some caffeine in it, which I feel like on brand for Starbucks, like with their like refreshers and stuff like that, people love it. It's not for me. I'm gonna go 4.6.
All right. How much did that bad boy cost again?
2.99.
Okay. And you got it at a Starbucks? Like, or do they sell that at a gas station now?
This is sold like at gas stations. So like
Okay.
saw it at Sheets, saw it at like Circle K and
Okay.
like the Shell station down the road.
Okay. Yeah, I guess they do have their like canned coffee drinks in gas stations, so that makes sense.
Which I'm gonna take that nitro cold brew over this any day of the week.
Dude, gas.
Yeah,
The nitro cold brew does hit. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Straight black though, no leche.
No, no leche. I got one of those at the airport once, and I was
Pretty
yeah,
happy.
I was feeling it. Even though I probably paid like $6 for it, didn't give a shit.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Obviously, you guys already know how we feel about the White Monster. Obviously, superior to most, and it's just the classic OG. So
Hmm.
yeah, appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure, dude, we're almost at 100 subscribers on YouTube. We were at 97 this morning when we both checked. This is episode 51, I believe, so we're over the 50 episode mark. Um, yeah, keeping it rolling here. Make sure to follow us on our socials. So bevboys.tv. We collab with our personal accounts with just like clips from the show. Some are more tactical, some are more just goofing around. You can find me at French_fit40 on Instagram for all those posts, as well as some training content and stuff like that, and me plugging, YouTube videos that I might make. You can find Brian on Instagram at
B Shakuski, BSZUTKOWSKI.
yep.
Same thing. Training content. I actually had a nice little celebration post for the last regular season meet that we had. Me dabbing with one of my athletes, which is kind of sick that it was caught on video. But you can definitely go on there and see everything. Definitely subscribe to us on YouTube. We've mentioned it a couple of times. 97 subscribers. We want to get to the big 100. I promise we will do a giveaway at 100 subscribers. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. Leave a review. Like 5-star reviews really help us. I don't know why, but they value that stuff, and it puts us into algorithms and lets us be seen. And hopefully one day we can actually make this a profitable expense for us,
Yes.
and go buy
Monetarily
some gear.
wise, it's obviously
Monetarily,
profitable from a
a fun
friendship
perspective.
perspective. Yeah, just a fun perspective, all that stuff. We don't give a shit about any of that. We just want money. Um,
Greenbacks, baby.
yeah, give me them blue strips.
Yep.
All right, yeah, but do appreciate you guys watching, tuning in, taking the time out of your day. And we will catch you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.